Yes, hello everyone.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank you all for joining us today. This is our second session, The Bigger Picture, a Game Plan for Student Athletes Success. I would like to introduce our moderator for today is Rukiya Ware. She is a Team USA track and field medalist and best-selling author of Kia and the Magical Spikes. Rukiya combines a lifetime of experience in athletics with 20 years in the field of education to provide leadership to the greater community in order to cultivate health, wellness, and unity. Her 6-week gold medal mind program, which she is launching, coaches parents of student athletes through the college acceptance process. Again, thank you all for joining us, and also thank you for your patience. Now, Rukiya, you can take it away.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for being here. Looking forward to really starting to get the big picture and then bring it to our young next generation of athletes to develop the future of sports. So without further ado, thank you for that amazing introduction, Jamila. Let's get started. First up, we have J.Q. Smith. Jaquise J.Q. Smith is a former NCAA basketball athlete who has played on various levels, including Division I, JUCO, and Division II. A graduate of Liberty University, Smith earned her master's in human services and communications while balancing life as a student athlete. Using her wealth of experience as an athlete, coupled with her desire to be of service, Smith has been able to successfully parlay her firsthand experience and media savvy into a career in public relations as founder of JQ Sports PR. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Antoine Harris. Antwon is an educational consultant who helps reimagine the future of education through the lens of emotional intelligence. As the CEO and founder of Antoine Harris Group, LLC, Harris is proud to make a living by inspiring, motivating, and challenging people from all walks of life. He's worked with student athletes at all levels and served as a coach and as an academic coordinator at the collegiate level. He has an extensive knowledge of curating workshops, professional development seminars, and education curriculum. A former college basketball athlete, Harris received his bachelor's degree from Winthrop University. Welcome. Thanks for being here, Antoine.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Last but not least, we have Nafis Ricks. Nafis is a mental health advocate, a former basketball player who looks to bridge the gap between sports and community. His primary goal is to reconstruct the narrative surrounding mental health in the inner cities and underserved communities by providing tools through speaking engagements, workshops, and seminars. Welcome, Nafis.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. All right, so let's dig in. Let's get started. First question. Please tell us a bit about yourself and what inspired you to pursue the path you're currently on. So we'll go in round robin order. So we'll go to JQ first.
Yes, good afternoon. So I am JQ. I am a former college basketball player. I played on all divisions, Division I, JUCO, and Division II. I had the opportunity to play overseas, but decided not to go that route and pursue my master's at Liberty. One of the things that I wanted to mention that's not in my bio, while I was at Liberty, I did a lot. I interned for the football program at Liberty University as a marketing assistant. I also coached a girls' JV basketball team in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I also was part of the media team for the semi-pro men's basketball league. So I did all of that while being a full-time graduate student. After I graduated, moved back to Raleigh, North Carolina. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew I wanted to be around athletes and sports because I still had the love for the game, just not, playing, right? So I bought this cheap camera and decided to start traveling. And the sport organizations, the Nike EYBL, the Adidas Uprising, the McDonald's All-American. At the time, there wasn't many females doing what I was doing on the sideline, which were video highlights and interviewing the top basketball players. So I was doing that for a while. And then as I was doing that, I started noticing a lot of behind the scenes when it came to the parents, the coaches, and the athletes. And that's when I made a conscious decision to make that transition from being a sports reporter or a vlogger to now as a PR consultant. So what I do is I help all athletes on all levels. I also work with athletic brands with their branding and marketing, and as well as help parents with the recruiting process.
That's incredible work that you do and quite a story. Can't wait to hear more. There's much I want to say, but I want to move forward. And then up next, let's talk to Antoine.
Yes, how did I get to this point? Well, it was a series of life decisions and choices. And not only that, but what I did see with my peers and family members, kids included. So reimagining the future of education through the emotional intelligence lens was birthed from that because when you're in education, as an educator that I taught middle and high school, you see in a lot of situations content pushing, right? But it's to reach students who look like us, you have to have relationships. And that is what I value so much. It's kind of one of the top things in my life and how I carry myself is building like meaningful and purposeful relationships. So it starts there, just with reimagining the future of education, which will help reimagine the future of our youth, is them getting that inner work. Starting with inner work, what does that even mean? Does that even work for me at this level, at this age in my life? And then we're going to go into the outer work as well, because you can't change what's on the whatever is on the inside is going to reflect on the outside. So if it's a bunch of negativity inside, that's definitely going to reflect outside what you project in your life. So just really helping with that. And we do that through building self-equity. And that's a whole process in itself. But I saw amid the pandemic, I saw students suffer, I saw families suffer, and I saw my own daughter who was in high school at the time just suffer with, just different struggles, being home and away from friends, and just how the education system has not prepared anyone to be able to handle that. So I've made it my goal, because I've always been in situations where I served, even as a sibling, as a captain on every team that I've been on, as a leader of teachers, as a coach of teachers, as a curriculum coordinator, just really try to embed a lot of things that will foster the growth, the real growth in students beyond the classroom walls. So that is what kind of prompted me to do that. And a lot of it with being an athlete as well, because that's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same thing, instead of content pushing, like X's and O's, getting better. However, when we try to transition out of it, we are lost. So many of us are lost. And just trying to help reimagine that and have candid conversations and workshops that will help even high school, college athletes bridge that gap into a world beyond the ball.
That's incredible. It sounds like you're doing way more than content pushing. It sounds like your curriculum is really developing the whole person, not just an athlete, not just a student, but the full person. Looking forward to talking more about that. Let's turn over to Nafis.
Hey, how you doing? My journey kind of starts back in college, where that kind of mental health was not talked about back in 2011. It wasn't really one of those things that we shared, especially being in the Black community. It really wasn't talking about it. Most of the time it was like, go pray on it and things like that. And I knew I was feeling the pressure my junior year coming in, being one of the top JUCO players in the country, making that transition to Division I, where I had some major struggles. A lot of trauma that I had back at home would kind of fuel my passion. And I didn't realize that, you thought you're going to go to the NBA, and, the percentages say you're not going to go to the NBA. But, in my mind, I want to change my circumstances of my family life. And as I got to my junior year, I had a major breakdown where I almost quit. I just kind of went in my coach's office, said, I need some help. Like I'm telling you, I'm crying every day. And, you know, I didn't know how to express myself because I had nobody to teach me those skills. I had mom and dad, both were separated, never seen them together. So I think that played a lot in my trauma, let alone losing my brother to gun violence at an early age when I was 14 and he was 19. So that kind of rocked my world a little bit. So as I got to this point of today, I was a graduate assistant at the University of Missouri from 2018 to 2020, where I realized like, oh, I want to coach. That was right after I was done playing professionally overseas. And I thought that's what I wanted, to be at the Power Five, coach a little bit, and just trying to figure out my way. But what I came to realize is that I was sharing my story to the players on the team, and they were sharing some personal stories similar to my background. And I'm like, this might be my lane. I seen psychologists on our staff and mental performance coaches, and that's kind of what drove me. I didn't see no Black men or Black women in that space, and I felt like I didn't have to conform or change who I was. And I felt like myself. I feel like I was still being an athlete at the same time. I'm like, coaching is great, but you can't really be yourself because you're in a system. For me, I want to be able to not only be a coach, but more than a coach. And I think me going after becoming a psychologist, currently in grad school right now at Georgia State University, getting ready to get my license and everything, I think that was a lane for me. And that's kind of what drove me. I think my personal experience kind of what drove me to this field with mental health.
Wow. We have a power-packed panel here and a lot of information that we're going to be able to learn and serve athletes, because you see this in the classroom, you see it in the field, that everybody comes to the field with their own story. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of sharing different stories and being able to dig in and help from different aspects of stories that all of our students and our athletes have. So I'm going to ask you guys this. What do you think are the biggest challenges that have faced student athletes today? And what are some of the ways that you think that they can overcome these challenges?
I would say for me, I think one of the biggest challenges for student athletes is knowing who genuinely cares about them, not only as just an athlete, but them as a human being, as a person. Working with athletes and being in a circle with coaches and media, I hear so many stories about individuals wanting to be a part of someone's circle because they're looking out for themselves and they don't have the kids' best interests at heart or the family's best interests at heart. And I think one of the ways that they can try to overcome that is just being very mindful and paying attention to people's behavior and figuring out what people's intentions are. I was just watching an interview on Pivot. They had John Morant as a guest on their show, and they had asked him, what is your circle like? Like, who's a part of that circle? And he said the same people that started with him when he was in, high school, and they grew with him as he pursued, his career, and just keeping that circle tight, people that really care about you as a person. Because sometimes, we get caught up, or families, particularly parents, get caught up on what they hear that somebody can do for their child and just, ignore all of their red flags. So just being very observant of people that's trying to come into your circle, trying to give your kids advice, and just really paying attention to that. Because I'm really big with my company of getting parents involved. I see that parents are not as active, not as engaging when it comes to their child's recruiting, who they're surrounding themselves with. So I would say that would be one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing in today's sports, because there's just so many opportunities. And now that money is involved, it can get really, really easy to get caught up with the wrong crowd.
That's powerful. We're going to come back to that part with the money being involved now. Just want to ask you this real quick, because you said that parents are not as involved. So they just allow their 17 or 18-year-old to just kind of go out there and figure it out on their own, or just let the coaches kind of guide them? Who are they allowing to guide them?
I mean, like I said, I've heard different stories. I've seen different, scenarios play out. Just people that just feel like they can get something out of the athlete. That can be sometimes a coach, trying to keep that kid close by, because they may be able to get an opportunity at the next level if they're able to take their kid, or, send their kid to a specific school, or get them to sign with a specific agency. It comes in different shapes, sizes, colors. It's just very important for parents to do their research, talk to these individuals, figuring out what are your intentions with my son or my daughter. And those are questions that are not being asked. And I understand, because my parents, I'm the first one to, out of 3 girls to go to college, and they had to educate themselves, but they were very, very particular on who I was talking to on a day-to-day basis. They made sure that they were in the schools, having conversations with the coaches, having conversations, with my trainers, to get a good grasp of what was really going on.
Yeah, agreed. Because you're a product, like they say, you're a product of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
That is absolutely true.
Antoine, I want you to weigh in on this.
On this question, so I feel that the biggest challenge is emotional intelligence, and that is broken down into 4 tiers. That is your self-awareness. It's what I'm hearing a lot of what we're talking about, your self-management. I'm hearing a lot of relationship management, and last but not least, relationship awareness. Those 4 components when it comes to emotional intelligence, I think, is the biggest struggle with not only with our youth, but with people in general. Like you take those 4 things, I'll say them again. I will self-awareness, self-management, relationship awareness, relationship management. Like those 4 areas, in my opinion, is part of the emotional intelligence that I think we students are challenged with today.
You have an equation for this, so your emotional intelligence is like an EQ, like an equation.
Absolutely, yes. It's a system to everything, for success and for failure. So, and that's what I feel it is for emotional intelligence.
Awesome. Nafis was talking about systems, being in and out of working through and in different systems. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges that I see from personally, it's not enough people talking about mental health, because I feel like Black psychology is different from every other psychology. So when you start digging into that and you think about the generational trauma that these student athletes are coming in with, like I always tell coaches, you're not only trying to change who they are in a year, but you're trying to get them to adjust to a system. And they've been programmed from their background, their home situation, and you're trying to integrate them into this melting pot where it may feel uncomfortable. So when you talk about mental health, that's not preached in most of the inner cities, that from what I have heard or what I have seen. So I think that's a challenge within itself, to try to get someone to open up, especially if you don't have anybody who mirrors the demographic that you're choosing, particularly with men's basketball, women's basketball, and football. You don't really see Black clinicians in that space, and not just any Black clinician, someone who can relate. I think that relatability is a lot that has to do with a lot of things that goes on into these schools. And, sometimes it's very uncomfortable. I mean, just accessing therapy, understanding what it is, and it's not being talked about. Like, it's very surface level. It's not really talked about what these kids are coming into these schools with. So I think that's a challenge. And how can we overcome it? I think we start educating. I think you got to start educating at the high school level, even before that, and not forcing it onto kids, and educating the parents. When I talk to the parents, the parents are always kind of, well, my son needs therapy, my daughter needs therapy, but have they thought about going to therapy? We have to model the action, in my opinion, in order to get the kid to open up. And when they come to me, sometimes it's like you're forcing it on the kid. They're not trying to be forced into a situation where they don't know who I am or know my background or anything. So I think you got to model the behavior to overcome the challenge, and put the money where your mouth is. I think a lot of people is doing it with the taglines and mental health, but what does it look like? Everybody has it, and you have to model the behavior once again. And I think that's how we overcome some of the challenges that we face.
That's work that happens on a day-to-day basis. Like when you're modeling that behavior in the mental health and the different steps that you take, that's something that you do like day by day by day by day. Athletes were kind of conditioned to have like the result and the win in the game and stuff, but just like practices day by day and then switching environments, there's just so much there. Like my heart is racing. I had a million different thoughts, but I did want to ask you this. How about if a student goes to like environment? Is it any different for a student who would attend an HBCU versus like a PWI? Does it shift any different if you have like a Black athlete in a
Absolutely. Environment, the coach has to be open enough to allow that space and create that safe space for an athlete to even open up. I was fortunate enough with my coach, he provided that. Like what I said when I was being recruited is that I don't want a coach that to coach me on the basketball court. I need somebody to coach me in my life. And I think I was very intentional about my recruiting process. So I went to 4 Black coaches. I went on visits to 4 Black coaches because I had to play for a Black man and be an extension of my grandfather and my father, simply because I knew this basketball was going to end. And I think if coaches don't allow athletes to be, if you don't humanize athletes, they're going to continue to make, they're going to have struggles. They're going to bottle everything in because a lot of success is tied to their performance. And I think we have to humanize the experience of athletes and not put them in a box of saying you're just an athlete, and expose them to, it's okay to cry. It's okay to go through these things in your life. How are we being proactively helping these athletes before they get on campus? So, and not doing the kind of the soapbox thing, just checking the boxes and getting the real work done. So I would say.
Well, I don't know if making that a hashtag would make it too cliche, but humanize athletes. That's a powerful whole vision statement in and of itself, to humanize athletes and the experience. Wow. All right, so that brings me to the next question. Based off of your experiences as a student athlete in helping student athletes, what is and what is not working?
I think when it comes to youth sports, what is working are the endless opportunities for media exposure. When I was coming up and playing, social media wasn't big, right? You had to get a videographer or your mom or your dad to record your games, find someone to chop up that footage, send off the VHS tapes so the college coaches can watch your game, right? But I think now, with the powerful of social media has given these student athletes just more an additional avenue to get themselves out there. And, with these showcases, these different camps, having media personnel, scouts and analysts, I mean, they're just coming out of everywhere. I mean, it's so many media journalists and scouts that some of them are not credible, but because they know somebody in front office, they get that opportunity, but that's a whole different conversation. But I just think the exposure for the athletes is definitely working. What I think isn't working is the fact that AAU coaches and programs not working with high school coaches. I hear so many stories about the AAU coach and a high school coach butting heads because they're trying to take the athlete and send them to another high school. And it really bothers me because at the end of the day, if you really have the best interest for these kids, the ultimate goal is to make sure they take the proper steps of becoming successful on and off the field. So if we come together and work together to get these athletes where they can be in life, I mean, it'd be peachy and cream, but it just really bothers me how it's so much animosity. Again, going back to what I said earlier, people are looking out for themselves and not for the kid.
Yeah, you just struck a nerve because that was my story. A high school coach did not want to stay running with the clubs, and so yeah, you just struck a nerve. Let's keep but that happens. That's a real thing. I'm sure in all this other sports as well, in track, that was certainly a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with injuries, and then the kid has to fend for themselves, the parents do, and it's still like those two systems that do not work together. So maybe it's a systematic thing as well.
Right.
Yep. So Antoine.
Yeah, I could say confidently what's not working is no one's, when you talk about youth, you're only talking about sports. You're not helping with a pathway, like even through sports, even a pathway from youth sports through, like you said, the middle school, high school, AU sports. The pathway, you're not really talking about it. You're going where it, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't even say what works best for you. Another thing that's not working, and I can tap more into that, is parents getting pissed off, excuse my language, and starting their own program and thinking they're going to do better, and the bottom falls out. And that's a big problem with that. And last but not least, what's not working is these crazy youth coaches. It gets out of hand. And being a youth coach and being a youth coach role model, two totally different things. Yeah, you gotta coach kids differently, but that I don't believe that's happening. The crazy youth coach thing is not working. It's not at all. So the pathway, the getting mad and starting a new program, and then the actual youth coaches who are you can really tell who's in it for the kids and who's not. So that's not working. As far as what's working, I don't know. I don't know. I have to come back to that.
So you're going to create the thing that's going to work. Take that problem and create that will work.
I do have a solution.
Okay.
I do have a solution.
Good to know. So we're going to bring that out a little later on. All right, Nafis.
I think what's working for today is that mental health is being talked about. I think just for that's the start of it. It's being talked about. Money is being distributed. I think the challenge, once again, and what's not working is that are you creating an environment where you're bringing in providers that look like the athletes? It's not enough. I know in the field, it's only 3% of Black men and Black women, and it's even smaller than that when you talk about Black men. And once again, if we're talking about the money-making sports of football, basketball, women's basketball, that it's not enough. I think every high school, in my opinion, should have a clinician, maybe multiple. I think that has to be in the forefront in order to, with the way the world is going with NIL and the technology and everything, these kids don't have a time to turn off. And they're constantly comparing themselves not only to other athletes, but the end goal is to be a professional. So if the end goal is to be a professional, it's going to be some where can they unload this on how they feeling? Because one thing what I start to see about people is they look at their Instagram or their social media and judge them. And we all do it. We do it unconsciously, subconsciously, we judge, but not really knowing that this is a screen that's being put up. This is an image, and they have to maintain this image. And I think if we don't bridge that gap early, by the time they do get professionals, you'll start seeing those 30 for 30s, and that sells. Them 30 for 30s sell on especially Black men and Black women's trauma. And I know that people don't want to talk about it, but those sad stories continue to perpetuate the energy that we got to get away from, because if we don't get the help that we need at an early age, by the time you're professional, they don't care. No business is about making money. So I think that's some of the things that we have to not only monitor at the early, like the youth level, but really let's talk about, let's have real conversation. Let's recruit clinicians early. Like if a student athlete is not going to the pros, why not be a clinician and help them find that path out? Because it's money in it. Of course, you got to take care of your family, but overall you're helping people. So that's what I would say.
And a clinician doesn't look as glamorous as being an athlete, being a pro. How do you sort of sell that and add the glamour to that as well and make it equally as enticing?
So what I do is, well, since I'm going back to school, I'm in school now, so I model that and I show people. I use my social media not only to do things like this, but I wear what I want, I dress how I want, I still listen to the same music that these people listen to, but it's at the end of the day, it's education, and I want to push myself. I didn't see any Black doctors in my neighborhood growing up, so that's what my motivating factor is, especially making a transition. I go to all the games. I'm on the basketball court at times with these guys. So I put myself in a position to show them like, this is something cool. And now with all the tools that you have, you can make it what you want it to be. And I think the more people speak out, like the high profile athletes, and really put their mouth where their money is, not just them holding these organizations accountable, not just the athletes, the organizations is where we got to target at to put the funding out there and make it look cool. So that's what I'm gonna continue to do and advocate for.
I like that. That's good work. I think we can definitely pull together and put that out there, the different options that the athletes have, so you can see the long game and the long term of like why we're doing this, and positive skills that you develop that you can feed into any direction that you go and just open up that world of possibility. JQ, I'm going to ask you this. How would you recommend student athletes approach NIL opportunities? Because that's something that's come up. I'm going to ask you another question, but you can answer them one at a time. What are some ways middle and high school athletes can begin to prepare for future opportunities?
Well, I think both of those questions, I can answer those questions hand in hand, because I'm a true believer of getting these kids when they're young. I've seen a lot of young athletes in middle school, 7th and 8th grade, starting their personal brand. And I'm loving it, because I think the earlier, the better. Before the NIL opportunity, had came about, yeah, you were getting some kids that were building up on their personal brand. But when the NIL law passed, that is when you start seeing a lot of these kids really build on their personal brand, being active on social media. So a couple of things that I say that athletes and parents need to start doing while their kid is young is finding what other passions do they have outside of their sport. Because I'm a, living witness. After I played ball, I didn't know what career path I wanted to take. So whether or not you feel that you'll make a lot of money based off your personal brand, at least you'll know what's your plan B. What's your life after sports? What does that transition look like? Are you into fashion? Do you like to model? Do you like to help people in your community? Whatever that looks like, go ahead and get started on building that brand and placing that on social media. I tell athletes that when it comes to the NIL opportunities, being active more so on Instagram and TikTok, those are the platforms that you want to post what your passions are outside of your sport. Now, don't get me wrong, you still have to work on your athletic ability, because like one of the panelists said earlier, these businesses, their end goal or their ultimate goal is to make money. So you still have to be good within your sport, but what can you offer to this business or this company? So find out what your passion is in an early age, being active on social media, as well as forming a team. I have a lot of people that would DM me and ask me, hey, I just got this NIL opportunity. Could you help me go over the contract, or can you negotiate my contract for me? That is not what I do. I'm a PR consultant. I'm helping you with your brand. So having a team, having a manager, having a financial advisor, having those key components of your circle is going to make the NIL opportunity and get the navigation so much easier.
I just want to jump in and ask you, on the replay, if somebody plays this back and they don't know exactly what is NIL, could you just explain to us what is NIL and how does it work and how is it applicable?
Yeah, so NIL, name, image, and likeness, where athletes can get paid off their name, image, and likeness. So that can be endorsement deals. That can be you speaking at events, you being a brand ambassador for a nonprofit organization, making appearances at special events, locally. And it doesn't have to, again, when the NIL passed, I'm all about making money, right? We all are. But something that I emphasize to these kids and these parents is the NIL also needs to be looked at of what you're going to do after your sport ends. Not everyone gets the opportunity to play at the next level. So making that transition, interning at these different agencies, these different, fashion apparel lines, just so you have an idea of what you want to do. So I think the NIL is a great thing that's happening. A lot of these college programs are hiring outside companies to come in to educate the athletes, which is what I'm doing on the high school level. But yeah, I just think, these athletes really paying attention on what opportunities are out there and making sure that what the offer is and what your brand is coincides. People can tell or can call you out on some BS, right? They can tell when you're not being authentic. So if it's a brand or a business or if a product that you enjoy using and you become a brand ambassador for that company, your followers or your fans are going to trust you because they know that is the person that you are. So just being mindful and very strategic on the NIL opportunities that are out there. I just really hope that these kids, both on the high school and collegiate level, take these opportunities very seriously. I really do, because we know that money can sometimes hinder us, right? And blind us with certain things and certain situations that come our way.
So it's important for them to stick to their values, know themselves. As soon as they can know themselves, who they are and what they stand for, what they believe in, then they have their values. So when those opportunities come, they're aligned, and making sure that the values are aligned to any opportunity that comes your way. NIL is only is that in the collegiate level? Is that an NCAA rule, or this is for like middle school, high school as well?
So not on the middle school level, but on the high school level. There are a couple of states that allow high school athletes to get paid off their name, image, and likeness. I'm waiting for Georgia, but my client, Jackson Sutherland, he's at Christ the King in New York. I know New York, Philly, and those up north states, some of those up north states are allowing kids at the high school level to get paid off their name, image, and likeness. So why not take advantage of that now? You know, so yeah, I'm really excited. Like I said, I just really hope that these parents and kids take these opportunities seriously, and making sure that it aligns with your morals and values, just like you said.
Yeah, that's beautiful. This is just a wonderful time if directed properly for young athletes. This is just like the time. Shout out to the 90s. We didn't have these things in the 90s.
No.
If we had a fancy backpack and just put our sneakers in the bag, we were lucky, okay? If you had a
Yes.
backpack, that was doing it. And we bought it from the store that doesn't even exist anymore, sports stores. Antoine, what are some ways that athletes can work on developing their leadership skills?
I feel the number one way is you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are, and there is really nothing out there attainable except this product that I have called the DISC assessment for students. It's too many times in life that we get to, let's say, some type of job or career, or maybe we don't even get to that job or career that offers you to take some sort of assessment, personality test, or anything like that, to just it's not going to really tell you exactly who you are, but just give you kind of some bones to work with, give you kind of an overview on how people should like speak to you, and just give you kind of a little bit more about yourself that you probably really haven't. Everybody can't afford counseling or therapists or things of that nature, but this is an assessment that could really help you. And what I have done is to help with students is offer that assessment that has been working very well in different middle and high schools across the country, and got data to show and to prove that. But understanding who you are, because at the end of the day, you're the CEO of your own development. We've heard it a lot. No one's come to save you. However, if you have that, if you could, whoever that person is that you have a great relationship with, that you ask them to be a mentor, to be someone who can help guide you through life. I understand that, like, we don't have all the answers, but we can definitely help you, because you are a seed that is growing and will continue to grow, and having I say a couple of things: a team of Avengers to help you with that. I just watched the documentary of the Redeem Team, having a Redeem Team to help you when things get not going the best. But really understanding yourself is definitely the first thing to do into helping with your leadership skills. You have to know who you are first.
Absolutely. And then when they do, how do they know that they've arrived there and that they're very clear and grounded in who they are?
I think the things that you may have done in the past is like that wording that says putting away old things as you grow up, as you get older, understanding, like building that equity within yourself, the self-equity, what I really talk about. When you understand that no one can borrow against that equity, no one can take from that. When you start responding rather than reacting to situations, when you are really, when you talked about earlier, the 5 people, when you are very intentional about who those 5 people are that you are spending your time with the most, those are some examples of how you know that you're starting to arrive. But understand that it is a journey, because we're always going to continue to learn more about ourselves and the individuals that we hang around and choose to share space with is ongoing. So yeah.
That's good stuff. That is very good stuff. Like that, knowing yourself, that seems to be like a very powerful starting point. Nafis, how might a student athlete overcome the stigma they might face about seeking mental health services?
That's a great question. I think once again, it goes all back about the environment and the space that adults are creating for these athletes. If it's not talked about, it's not offered, there's no accessibility, athletes are not going to show up. They're not going to show up as their full holistic self, because, like, once again, you don't know who's dealing with what. And it doesn't matter what environment that you come from, whether you're from the inner city or are you from a fluent neighborhood. Everybody has some type of trauma when they coming in to a program, especially at a high level. So I think the biggest thing is in order to open those doors up, is continue to talk about what's really going on in a real manner, because we often say to these high school athletes, be in the gym for 24 hours, put the work in, but we never worry about them off the floor or while they're in their sports, of trying to manage the expectations, not only from their parents, but from the world. A lot of these kids have a big platform. Some of these kids have major platforms. They are celebrities. They can't walk around by themselves. They're gonna get mobbed and things like that. And I know a couple athletes that they can't really, they're not humanized. They just, once again, they're put on this pedestal like they're superhuman, like they don't have feelings. And some of the scrutiny you see on social media that they go through, people don't understand who they are, because they never get to show you who they are. They already got to post their major moments of their life, because they don't want to be, judged in a negative way, or they don't want to fall off. Everybody's looking for that dopamine hit, whether it's adults or kids and things like that. So their world is birthed off the internet. So their value is somewhat intertwined with that. And, just trying to remove some of those things that they go through and having those open, candid conversations. So that's what I would say.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, there's 2 sides to it, that this is such a powerful time. They have huge platforms and everything available at their fingertips, but at the same time, that comes with great responsibility at such a younger age. So, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to continue to talk about. I'm going to go around and ask this next round of questions, and it's for everyone. So tell us about the lowest point in your life and how did you overcome it? And what did you learn from that experience? That's always the most important part of the things that you learn. So we'll go around.
I would say the lowest part of my life as an athlete, or the transition from an athlete to a business?
Probably as an athlete, because we're
Okay.
a younger crowd. So like, what to expect? What are some of the things that could happen down the line, or like in the immediate future?
I would say the lowest part of my playing career is when I went to a Division I school out of high school. And that was because everyone spoke about D1, D1, D1. You wasn't an elite athlete if you went to Division II or even JUCO. So going to Division I school, realizing that that wasn't the place for me. So then I went to JUCO, and it was the moment where I had an opportunity to play or transfer out of JUCO back to a Division I school, either North Texas or Louisville. But because I got off track and got distracted while I was in JUCO, I failed 2 classes. Never failed a class in my life. Like, my parents were really big on academics. So not until my junior years when I decided to fail 2 classes. And, at the time, in order for you to go to a Division I school, you had to have an associate's degree. And so I decided I'm not going to summer school, because the coaches over at Louisville and North Texas said, Ms. Smith, if you want to play for our program, you're going to have to go to summer school. My parents tried to talk me into going to summer school, but I was very influenced by my environment, right? My peers. So did not go to summer school. ended my last 2 years at a Division II school. And now that I look back, I wish I would have listened to my parents and the people that really cared about me. Not because, oh, well, if you don't go there, then you're not going to be anybody. No one's going to know who you are. And that's why that circle backs around to me explaining to kids and parents of knowing who you are outside of your sport. And, you know, I tell this story all the time, but for the sake of this forum that we're on, I just really wish that I would have done things differently. But I would say that was the lowest part of my playing career, was failing 2 classes, not being able to play at the level that I knew my talent could, you know, uphold. So yeah, I would say that was my lowest part of my playing career.
And eligibility is eligibility. So if you're in a D1,
Yes.
JUCO, or D2, those 4 years are going to go by. It's not like you have a different groups of eligibility. It's just across the board, right? So you
Exactly.
have those 4 years, use them wisely, because it just, right?
And they go by so fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you learn from that whole experience?
Just listening to the right people. Even in today, in my day-to-day life now as an adult, just listening to the right people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I with that question, it's a few times, to be honest with you. It was a few times. Let's start with the first one. I was 15 years old, you know, playing varsity as a sophomore. And we're going through the year, kind of been working my tail off, and I collapsed. I collapsed in practice. Near-death experience. Had to be rushed to the hospital at that point to find out that I was suffering from a heart condition. So I had an option to continue on with the season and risk some more damage, or shut it down and then, you know, go get the surgery. But for me, you know, the percentages was kind of wavering in my favor. So I went on and finished the season, but then having a AAU season that I did not play my sophomore year, coming off such a great one my freshman year, I opted to get, I had to have surgery to remove some things from around my heart, on my heart, so that I can be able to play again. It was a very risky surgery at the time. I didn't know what was going to come from it, but I knew if there was an opportunity to play, that I had to recover from this. So the after the surgery was successful, it was the recovery process. It was very intense, with building everything back up from lungs to how my body operated, so that I'll be able to play my junior year. And going through that was extremely hard, extremely emotional, but to have a team, a village around me to help support me, not only with my parents, but man, to have some homies that really looked out for me in high school, which you really don't have that. A lot of situations are people who are very envious of you, and to know that those 3 guys to this day serve as a support to me, and I serve as supporter for them as well. It's just different avenues in life, but that was number one hardest thing that I had to deal with, was again facing death, and then, you know, bouncing back from that. Number 2 is again having an opportunity to go Division I out of high school, just like JQ said, but you know, that backed off when I became a parent at 17. You know, back then it's like, oh yeah, we can find somebody else at this position, not trying to deal with, you know, the at that point it seems a little bit more accepting these days, but for me coming out, having opportunities, it just, they was like, nah, I'm cool. And that's where I went my junior college route, which ended up being extremely successful. But the resilience, the emotional control, the drive, the self and social awareness that I had, what kind of really helped me, you know, get to that relationship management, having the right people around me as to go through this. Being a teen parent was not easy. I had to have a very strong, and shout out to my kid's mom for just, and her family just being there as well. Like it was important. A lot of people don't have that. And I'll say my third one was once I got to Winthrop, I struggled to transition from being All-American at the junior college level. I mean, at the top of the top, playing against the best, to now being a part of a program that was very successful before I got there and is still successful today. And we played not just Division I basketball, we played at a championship level. So understanding that, they say it's levels to it, it really is, but really struggling to pick up offenses and defensive schemes with the head coach, and we butted heads a lot. And to make a big mistake of coming back to campus late from Christmas break was probably the biggest mistake. And he told me that he was going to run me until I quit. And at this time, being a father, and it's just like, yeah, I can't go back home. So push comes to shove, I go through the grueling process, and then we had an injury happen to one of the starters, and then boom, my career took off from that. But it's, again, the agility that I had to live with, the emotional control that I had to kind of conquer, and just the resiliency to those three things, it really helped me, really helped me. And in that moment, it was hard to show gratitude, but I know living with a gratitude and a serving heart, really, it helped me as well. But those three things, man, I've always just been a servant of people and the people around me. And when the time came for me to get it on my end, just to have so many people pour into me in different areas was very helpful for me in my process of overcoming that.
Wow, that's some story and some journey. And in the end, you have a whole lot to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
That was really a concept that that came to me like a little later on. I was always like thankful, but like that deep gratitude for all the things that happened and who you are in the moment is very powerful. Something good to give back. And Nafis.
Ooh, this was man, Antoine had hit some of the similar, we had similar things, but I can remember, it was two things that I can remember. So I led the state in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, the scoring title, and anybody knows living up north, the inner city, how passionate points is very prominent. That's all people care about. So I led the state in scoring 35 points a game. But what I didn't know is I took the SAT at the final month of graduation. Little did I know, I didn't have no practice with it. I took it, bombed it, didn't get the score that I want. So now I didn't know nothing about the clearinghouse. And the one thing, I wasn't eligible. So I did all this stuff, scoring them in the paper and things like that. So I mentally struggled when it was time to go get a scholarship. They like, well, you got to go to prep school or junior college. I'm like, what? Like, I did all this work. My parents can't afford for me to go to college. And I'm like, I got to find a way to get there. So, when you see friends committing to schools in Division I and you played against them and you feel like we're on the same tier, that didn't happen for me. I kind of went into like a deep depression because I'm like, I'm in an environment where gun violence is very prevalent where I'm from. Like, and I'm seeing my homies get murdered in the street, and I had cousins and my brother got killed. It's like, I got to get out this environment to make it. Because if I can't make it out of this environment, and sports is the vehicle, what else am I going to do? Because my parents can't afford this. So I struggled with that. So I decided to go to prep school. I was only there to December. Coach came out and seen me play, recruited me from Philadelphia, and it didn't work out. It wasn't a good situation for me. I was in Maine. I went to MCI, Maine Central Institute, and it was a different environment. 1 year older. I'm still dealing with the pressure of not going Division I straight out of high school. And what I seen was that I wasn't emotionally well. I couldn't do workouts. I wasn't in shape. I was using my talent most of the time and to get over, and I was faster and a lot stronger than a lot of guys. But at that level, it was like we was all even, or they was better than me. So when I got there and I seen the struggles, I had to come home because I couldn't finish. Like, this just wasn't a good relationship. So I came home and started working at UPS. If anybody knows working at UPS in a manufacturing, like throwing the boxes on I'm like, I'm not ready to put the basketball down. So my mom said, either you're gonna work or you're gonna go to school. I'm playing in every rec league, and I'm like, Mom, I can't work at UPS no more. I worked there for a month and called it quits. I didn't call them I just didn't go back. And what I said to myself is, by the summertime, I'm getting back in school. So I got a phone call from one of my friends who went to a junior college out in Kansas. And I signed right on the spot when I took the visit. I didn't even go to no other schools. I probably had over 30 junior college recruiting me. But I was just like, if he went Division I, I can play with him, and I know that I can get to that level. So that's kind of where, when I got to junior college, we won a national championship. When I got there my sophomore year, I got player of the year. I pretty much destroyed every record that was possibly in junior college, because the one thing that I noticed about myself is that I had so much trauma built up. So I was playing math, so I was a bad leader. I was terrible at talking to people, and it wasn't until my teammates had pulled me to the side. My coach pulled me into his office, like, listen, you're a great player, but your attitude, like, you don't have to be like that. You're in the middle of Kansas, like, everybody knows you're good. And it was my ego playing, but it was the stuff that I was going through. As I fast forward, when it's time to get a scholarship to go to Division I, like Antoine said, it was like starting over again. So mind you, once again, I got all these accolades and things in junior college, National Junior College Player of the Year, I'm like, oh, this is a new world. Like, I ain't never been worked out like this a day in my life. Like, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm not no punk. Like, that's my mentality coming in. Man, I couldn't finish a workout. But little and behold is that I didn't know when I got to junior college that it was going to be adjustment, but my coach was very hard on me. Like, but it wasn't, he never cursed at me. And that's one thing I respect about it. I said, how did this man get me to work so hard? But he never cursed at me. That's what I was accustomed to back at home. I'm like, are you cursing at me? It can get me going. Not knowing that was negative the whole time, but it was a guy that cared for me. He created that open space for me. So as I got there, I struggled. I came off the bench. I averaged 19 minutes a game. I came off the bench as a junior, coming from junior college. I'm like, yo, people calling me home, you should transfer. I'm like, where am I going? I'm in the middle of Missouri now. I don't know where to go, and I'm frustrated, but I'm depressed at the same time. That's when I see my psychologist there. And another thing that I noticed about myself, when I got diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, dyslexia. So mind you, I was going through all this stuff with a learning disability all through elementary, middle, and high school, and I couldn't process. Like, I'm a very hands-on visual learner. You can't write that on a paper, I'm going to remember it. So I'm the point guard now. I'm making a transition from shooting guard to point guard or combo guard. And I'm the point guard. I'm out of shape. I have a processing disorder that I didn't realize until I got diagnosed as a junior. And I'm like, my ego is setting in and it's crushed because I can't finish my workouts. So now, as I'm trying to overcome these things, I was in therapy my whole junior year, which was the best thing. White woman, if I could remember her name or see her face, I would tell her, thank you for opening up that situation. But my coach stayed with me. He never promised me something. He never degraded me. I got help. And that's kind of when my career kind of took off. And that's kind of where I overcome some of the struggles my senior year was a cakewalk. We won the Valley Championship. I didn't come off the bench. I averaged 34 or 5 minutes a game. We won the first Missouri Valley Conference title ever in school history. And to this day, me and my coach, we talk every day. And it's more than just a game of basketball, it's about life. And that's two moments in my life where I felt like this would gear me into my purpose, was the mental health field and becoming a therapist and a psychologist. And it wasn't just basketball. It was the vehicle to get me to where I was going. I just didn't know it. So that was two pivotal moments in my life where I felt like I'm comfortable. I still feel like I'm playing the game, but I'm outside the game.
That's huge. That's a tremendous story. We have a collection of such amazing stories. Nafis, you mentioned prep school and then you mentioned JUCO. Could you just quickly touch on the differences?
Yeah, so prep school is like an extra year of high school where you're playing with fifth-year guys who didn't either qualify out of high school or they decided to go to prep school to try to get a Division I school. What I would say is prep school is not for everyone. And what I mean by that, certain guys are getting placed there from the schools that they commit to, and they just either need the SAT score or they need to get their grade point average. And then junior college is basically you didn't qualify out of high school, you didn't get the schools that you were looking for out of high school, and it's a way to earn a Division I, Division II, or Division III scholarship. Division III don't get scholarships, but Division II or NAIA, another pathway to get to your ultimate goal.
Wow, thank you for that. Just on the replay, in case parents want to know the differences, or coaches or students. Thanks for clarifying that. And there's nothing like having a good coach. When that coach becomes like your friend, mentor, and sort of life coach, and they're sitting there at your wedding, it's like very powerful. And it's like their job is done. You want to be that person to give back to that next generation. There's a lot of things that people like that do that we want to bring to our students. The last thing I'm going to ask you guys, what advice would you give to the generation coming up now that wants to play college sports or looking to discover what else they want to do? And I know you guys touched on that. If we could just touch on that again.
Do your research. And what I mean by that is doing research on these programs that you're interested in, these college coaches, being persistent, working hard on and off the playing field, and being confident in who you are. Those are my bullet points of what I would tell the younger generation. I can go on and on, but those are my bullet points that I would give to the younger athletes. Doing your research, being persistent, being you, your authentic you, and also be confident in everything that you do.
Absolutely. I talk about confidence a lot in my children's book, shameless plug, Kia and the Magical Spikes. So it's my journey as a track runner. And I talk about confidence like from the beginning as an 8-year-old, running and racing and then all the way. So that's just like the underlying theme. You've got to have that confidence as early as you can.
I would say build your self-equity. And what I mean by that is understanding yourself better and being able to solve your problems using your thoughts, ideas, creativity, experience, knowledge, and self-control. And when you're on that path of doing that, I like to use the CDC to success. And what I mean by that is your commitment, your discipline, and your consistency in any and everything that you're trying to do in life, in sports, in school, remember that CDC to success. As we know in the news, CDC ain't always been good or whatever, however you feel that is, but it's positive this way. The CDC to success, being committed, being disciplined, being consistent. That's what I got.
Love it. Love it. Great advice.
What I would say is that you control your own narrative. Make sure you put the pressure on these schools and companies. Make sure you ask for mental health services first and foremost, and really make them buy into what you're selling, because at the end of the day, you up on a long journey. And I think if that's not in the forefront, all the other stuff won't matter. The sports won't matter. None of this won't matter, because like I said, everybody's dealing with some type of mental health issue, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Make sure that's you building a quality team. And if you don't know, like JQ said, do your research. Like I always tell parents, like, do your research on these coaches. Know their background, know who they connected to. And when you're talking about NIL and mental health, if you don't have a trainer that you trust, financial advisor, these are things that you must have in your team, whether you go to the NBA or not, because you have an opportunity to make money with NIL. If mental health and those services is not provided for you, that's the one thing I would say. Put the pressure on these schools, these organizations, and make them fund the stuff that you want to do. It don't have to come out of your pocket. Make them fund what you want them to do, because you're the product, essentially. The athlete is the product. So you have the leverage, and the most leverage you're gonna have is with that jersey. As soon as you take that jersey off, So that's what I would say for the next generation that's coming up. Put the pressure on these entities and make them do what you say in a respectful way, but hold your end up in the bargain, because they're gonna hold you accountable as well.
Yeah, be aligned, know who you are, and the funds are there. The funds are there. The schools definitely have the funding, so may as well make it like a happy marriage and a partnership. Make sure you get what you want out of it, because they have it there, but you have to ask. What do they say? Closed mouths don't get fed. You gotta know what you want so you can go in and ask for it, and then live that life, be that example. And it's a day to day, like Antwon said, with the consistency and the discipline. It's every day. It's every day. So just wrapping up, I'm going to go around and ask you guys, so what's next for you, JQ?
I'm very excited for these next couple of months, because I will be partnering with a few athletic companies or brands here in the Atlanta area. I am also partnering with Pebblebrook men's basketball team here in Atlanta, Georgia. Colin Sexton's high school. That's in the NBA. But yeah, just partnering with a lot of brands and companies here in the Atlanta area for, putting on different forms and education events to get these parents and these athletes in control of their recruitment process and their, career path. So yeah, really excited, really excited.
That is exciting. That's something I'm going to circle back and talk with you about a little more afterwards.
Awesome.
Yes, Antoine, what's next for you?
What's next for me is the continuation of implementing Flight School and the self-equity program in different schools and school districts around the country. Later this month, I will be on tour doing a Red Ribbon Week tour where I'm presenting a message, talking about drug abuse prevention to students around the country. I'll be in Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Texas. There's potentially Hawaii, but I'm still, it's coming down to the nitty-gritty with that. But those 4 states I have in for sure. And then just trying to, create some more opportunities for myself and my company as we continue to move forward and work with different corporations on building an engaging team of leaders. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Good luck to you in Hawaii. Definitely need it, and I'll be, cheering you on, just sending you positive energy to get to.
I appreciate that, because I'm also, that's a kind of vacation too. So if I can work while I'm out there, that's what I'm trying to get. I'm already gonna be out there. So yeah.
It's Hawaii, man.
Yeah, I'm already out there.
Definitely want to hear more about that. And then Nafis, what's next for you?
So I'm in my first semester of grad school with my mental health counseling program. So continuing that journey, got a lot of speaking engagements coming up, trying to build some more relationship in the Atlanta area of not only just providing speaking engagements, but actually providing teams with therapists that I know of that I'm connected with, Counseling Brothers Atlanta, Black Men Hills, another organization, and not only providing them for the athletes, but for the parents and administration as well, to try to create partnerships out in that area, and as well as Philadelphia, and just continue to push in the message of mental health and really getting down to the work and just being visible so people can kind of break the stigma surrounding mental health.
Incredible. You guys are just incredibly fabulous. When I was, found out I was going to be moderating the panel, I was like, okay, great. People that are talking my language, talking about sports and stuff. But I mean, these are 3 people, like if I had, asked to be paired with like the most amazing people that really have their heart for the next level, the next generation of students that live the life and the different experiences that we have lived and walked, and in the different sports, being female, being male, being Black, being in track and basketball, football, and we just talking to like our people, like our nation of people. I really, really just from the bottom of my heart enjoy spending this time having this conversation with you all. And I know that this is definitely going to be educating and blessing anyone who's watching this. Tell us, JQ, how people can get in touch with you.
You guys can follow me on all social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at JQ Sports PR. And I'm also going to offer a free 30-minute consultation for anyone that was on this forum with me. Just DM me, You Athlete Summit, and we'll go from there, setting up your consultation.
Perfect, perfect. Antwon, how can people find you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. For all of those, it'll be Antoine Harris. But for Instagram, it's actually coach.aharris. And you can also go on my website at www.antoineharris.com, or you can reach me by email at info@antoineharris.com.
Amazing. Nafis, how can people reach you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Nafis, Nafis.Ricks, number 2, or Instagram, Nafis.Ricks, 2, once again on Instagram. And my email is collaborationmanagementmgmt@gmail.com. Yeah, that's how you can find me.
Oh, perfect. And you guys can find me www.RukiyaWare, RukiyaWare.com, RukiyaWare.com. That's where you can find the information on my coaching program and also my book, Kia and the Magical Spikes, just KIA, and the Magical Spikes is on Amazon. So I look forward to continuing this conversation with you all, because I really think we have something magical and amazing to put out there in the community and really help build that next generation. So thank you all for watching, and the audience, thank you so much. And make sure that you reach out to these incredible, incredible professionals in many areas, not just sports, but reaching beyond. And thank you, Jamila, for having this. This is a conversation that needs to be had continuously. So I look forward to having more conversations. And thank you, panelists. You guys are an incredible wealth of information.